Today we're going to be talking about scaling your brand. And this is really huge because, you know, you may already have your products together and you may be at that place where you're looking to actually expand. Hey guys, I see you guys coming on in. Hi, how are you guys doing on this lovely Monday? Are we good, babe? Okay, cool. So we're going to be talking about scaling your brand, and specifically we're going to be going over how to do it in a retail type of atmosphere.
Getting those retail accounts.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the next level for companies that already have inventory to sell. Like if you're drop shipping, you know, that's going to be your first level. And then once you're able to buy product and get it out there to the stores, then you could take it into retail at that point.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can scale using retail. Like you can have your own CBD store if you have a budget for that, where you can have your products in your own store. You can spread your brand that way. So we're just going to be going over a few slides today, talking a little bit about how we scaled our brand and the things that we did in order to secure ourselves in retail spaces. And then we're going to be talking about kind of like taking a trip down memory lane. So just to kind of give you guys an idea of what it takes to actually scale your brand using retail. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into our slides.
Okay, let me share the screen here and get into the slides. And it'll cut me and B off in half, so it'll look weird on our side with our faces, but at least you can see the slides.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Slideshow.
And we want to make sure you can see the slides. So I'm gonna, Matt, you want to step out and make sure we
just check.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna start.
All right. So.
Okay.
Sometimes my phone doesn't catch up. Here, let's see. Yeah, it's not. So hopefully you guys can see that. I don't know.
I'll go check and make sure that you can see it. It's very important.
B will be right back. I'll entertain you guys in the meantime. Oh, wait, here we go. Now you should be able to see it. Yeah, it's working, B. Sorry, I'm not the most technically savvy in the world. Okay, now let me get to the slides. Okay, now let's do it.
All right, so here we go, scaling your brand retail. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's talk about how adding retail can help you scale. Okay, so first of all, retail can do things, I got this, babe, like increase exposure, which is obvious because the more quality stores that you can supply, the better, right? Because your brand is getting out there, your product is getting out there. So this creates a huge opportunity for you.
Yeah, and some stores are going to want consignment. So that means they're going to want like maybe 15 to 30 days to pay you back, and they're going to want you to front that inventory. So you have to really vet these stores and make sure there are people you want to do business with in that type of manner. And if you don't trust them, then don't do consignment and just make them pay up front. But you'll get a lot more sales if you offer consignment and consignment contracts.
Yep, and we talk about consignment actually later on in the slides. So another thing that retail does too is that it creates a community. And this can happen by providing consultations and offering different promotional demonstrations, for example. Like let's just say if you actually had your own CBD retail store space, you can consult with patients, and that's something that we were accustomed to doing in our dispensary days. And we found that it was really helpful, and it helped us to reach out to patients and become more familiar with their needs and what their wants. And that actually is what helped us to realize how beneficial CBD was for a lot of people, because we were listening to the patient's feedback.
Yeah, and then also there's CBD stores popping up all over the country now. There's thousands of them, I bet. And by next year, there'll be thousands more. And so what you can do with your brand is you just get a nice table with a tablecloth with your brand on there, get some samples and some promotional models, and offer to those retail stores that are carrying your products. You know, you can do promos in there and give away samples, and that gets your brand exposure out there, and the stores love it. Of course, they want you to come in and give away samples to get people in the door.
Absolutely, because it's going to help them. It makes them look good. It makes them look like they care, which of course they want to look like they care. And it's something that they can offer to their customers. So it's really huge.
Yeah, and it goes back to the spreading your brand message, and that's exactly what it does. It gives you access to people you can talk to, and they get to see your logo and your brand, get to know what your brand is all about. So you have to make sure that your promo models fit with your brand identity.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point. Like sometimes, you don't want to offend, you don't want to offend your potential customers. So make sure that, you're actually very consistent with even the models that you choose, the way that you decide to advertise. You want to make sure that it's true to brand. And if you have questions about your brand, feel free to ask your questions.
Yeah. I just saw a disaster the other day. There was a cannabis company that I won't name, and they did a video with the founder of the company, and he must have been about 60 years old, and he literally had one girl on each side of him in bras that were like 17, probably 18, probably just turned 18. It was disgusting. And so it went viral, and people bashed his brand, and so you got to make sure that you don't do stupid things like that. And
yeah, you want to be polarizing, but my goodness, you have to be really careful about your brand message. Again, that goes back to knowing your brand archetype, staying true to that archetype, making sure that it makes sense for what you're selling as well. That's huge.
Yeah, this is medicine when it's all said and done, in my opinion, at least.
Well, yeah, you can have fun with it and everything else like that, but you also want to remember that people are taking the CBD as part of their health program. So that's something you want to look at as well. So another thing that retail can do to help you scale is that it builds automatically. It's going to build trust and loyalty because people follow and trust consistently great brands with real people and that have a real message that resonates. So if you're in front of people, you're talking to people, you're there, it's going to make you stand out more so than brands who are behind the scenes who you don't even know who that is.
If you're just online, it's not as good as if you have a retail presence as well. You don't have to necessarily own your own retail store, although that's great too. But just being in other people's retail locations, that makes your brand have more credibility instead of just selling online.
Oh, yeah. There's several ways to scale up using retail, which we talk about in the course. So you want to make sure that you go over that section. But another thing that adding retail can do is that it gives you great feedback. Just like I opened the discussion talking about how we were able to talk to our patients regular. And at the time in the dispensary, they're called patients. So, just talking to your customers and hearing what they're saying about your products. Like I can remember when we were working in the dispensary, the patients would tell us right away if something worked or if something didn't work.
and if you're seeing 200 people a day, you get the feedback and it's generally across the board the same. And then the last point is that it will increase your sales if you focus on retail as well. And I just read a report the other day, 91% of all purchases are made in retail stores and only 9% of purchases are made through e-commerce. So e-commerce has not taken over as much as people like to think. And especially in the cannabis and CBD world, like people like going into a retail store, talking to somebody about the products. So you're missing out if you just have your product and your brand on e-com only. Because a lot of people won't buy online. They want to go into a store and have that experience, and that's not going to go away in the CBD world.
I agree, especially like it depends on what your target demographic is. But a lot of the people that buy CBD, a lot of them are baby boomers. And so a lot of them, they want to talk to someone. They want to ask questions. They like transparency, which of course we all like these things. So, just even having your product in a retail store, it could just help basically spread your brand message. It could help you reach out directly to your clients.
Yep. And so also, here are some of the pros and cons when you sell to retail. You're getting bigger orders. Like usually with online sales, you're getting anywhere from $100 to $150 per order average. With the retail stores, you're getting $5,000 orders, $10,000 orders. Some of them may be $1,000, but we've gotten $10,000, $15,000 orders from retail shops. And so that your orders are going to be much higher. And networking, meeting people in person, like we've been talking about, it's easy to get lists of retail stores, and you can contact me. I can steer you in the right direction if you don't know where to get lists. And the good thing about, you can cold email retail and business to business. You can't cold email consumers, and it's totally legal if you cold email retail, and as long as you have your business address in there. So you have to make sure you have a business address, and that's at the bottom of the email. That makes it legal. And also, success will come if you have a system in place. This is a numbers game, and we taught you the exact system in the course. So all you have to do is follow. People make it way too complicated. Just go and execute, and it's a numbers game. The more stores and people you contact, the more sales you're going to get. And we even have friends with the CBD company. They set up talks all over the country in like health food stores or yoga centers or wherever they can set up a talk about CBD. They'll have hundreds of people there. They're selling tons of products because they have great personalities. They're passionate, they're knowledgeable, and they care. And so that's a whole nother option. You can go do a road tour. They're crushing it. So it's just so many ways. You just have to figure it out and decide. And of course, if you have great account management, your retail accounts, once they know you have a good product, they're going to order like clockwork. So once you get, let's say you get 100 accounts and every one of them is ordering once a month or twice a month even, and there you go. You got a great business going. I talked to one CBD company the other day. They're almost at 20 million a year, and it's all retail, no e-commerce sales. And so they haven't even concentrated on e-commerce.
Yeah, the cool thing about retail is that it puts you in front of the people, and that's huge. You know, it keeps you from being behind the scenes. And I always like dealing directly with the people too, because it just makes it more of a human connection, I think.
Yeah, and some of the cons are, you know, you have to find good people, hiring people to go out and do sales and promotional models. So you have to make sure you get the right people. The margins are lower when you sell to retail accounts. You know, obviously they got to get their cut too. But like we said, the orders are bigger. You're dealing with store owners, consignment. Sometimes they want to return things. So you know, you're dealing with those issues. I've heard of in the cannabis world, I was just talking about this earlier. One of my buddies lost $60,000 because he did consignment with a store and they disappeared. And so you got to make sure you better.
You got to vet the stores.
And so what it takes to be successful in retail.
So let's just talk about it. So you want a clear strategy of what your retail goals are to begin with. You know, first of all, you want to sit down and do some brainstorming. Where do you see yourself going? You know, what kind of stores would you like to be in? How many stores do you feel you can service? You know, these are things that you want to start thinking about as you contemplate scaling through retail. What are some retail options that you may want to look at? Like we talked in the course about vending machines and kiosks and all these things like that.
Yeah, or even one of my clients, or one of our clients, he doesn't want to sell to smoke shops. And I understand that because it doesn't fit his brand, even though smoke shops sell CBD everywhere, but it's not a good fit for his brand. So he's focused on different stores, and that's a smart strategy. You don't want to just sell to everybody just because you can.
Absolutely. Because it can kind of like dilute your brand if you think about it. So another thing too, like we were talking about, you want to have a reliable team that can help sell and educate. This is huge. You know, people that you can train about your products, what they do, what they offer, people who you can share your background, your story, your brand story, so that they can in turn spread that information to the customers. So, you know, when customers come to their store, let's just say, for example, you have your CBD tinctures in a smoke shop and you've already educated the managers and the staff that work at the smoke shop. These people are going to probably push your products because you've been there, you've educated them, you've showed up, whereas these other other CBD companies that they may be selling, they may have never seen the owners of that company before show up and take the time and educate them about their brand and their product. And this is really huge because, first of all, it makes you stand out. It makes you look more professional.
Yeah.
It makes you seem like you have your shit together, which is huge.
Especially if you have like marketing materials that you can give them and bring them tacos or burritos, they'll love you forever.
Yeah,
that's really what matters. And also a great product, of course.
Yeah, burritos and tacos definitely.
And then they'll push your product all day long. So yeah, and the one thing to be wary about, and that's why it's good to have your own store. I remember our biggest account, all of a sudden he went from like 20,000 a month to 5,000 a month on orders the next month, or the next few months. And I was like, what happened? I called him up and I was like, is something wrong? He's like, no, we launched our own brand.
Yeah.
So they're pushing their own stuff. So that's why it's good to have your own retail if you can.
Yeah.
Even a kiosk in a mall or a small, you only need, we did $6 million in a 330 square foot space. With the cannabis dispensary.
Yeah, with only a few people allowed in that dispensary at a time.
Yeah, so you don't need a lot of space. 500 square feet is more than enough. In some cities, you could rent that for really cheap.
And we're going to go over how we actually did that in that small space momentarily. So another thing that it takes to be successful in retail, of course, is margins. Like, we always talk about margins, and Matt is pretty much the numbers guy. And so margins are huge. You want to start off with pretty decent margins to begin with.
Yeah, so like if you're just starting out and you don't have the huge budget, you got to bootstrap it in the beginning until you can get those good margins, and then to be able to deal with retail stores. And then you might get approached by distributors. They want anywhere from 20 to 40% below your wholesale cost. So let's say you're selling a tincture for $40 on your website. You're going to sell that to the retail store for $20. And then your distributor is going to want it anywhere from 20 to 40% below $20 so they can make their money. So you have to have a lot of room to work with in order to go that route. If you don't have the room, then it's good to just stick with selling online for now until you can build up things.
Yeah, you want to definitely be able that when you go retail, and when you scale to retail, you want to be able to have the budget to be able to do that. And
for samples and everything.
Exactly. And we'll go over that in more detail as well. So another thing that it takes, what it takes to be successful in retail, of course, your brand identity must be on point. So you're not getting together your brand identity at this point. You already have it together, you guys. You already know your brand. It's on point. It's in everything that you say. It's on your site. It's in your product. You're representing your brand. And so your retail is an extension of your brand. And that is why your brand identity must be on point. Oh, that's cool. So I didn't even see that. But yeah, you must have a budget, which is what we were just talking about. Like, you must have a budget to be able to go big in the first place. And the budget is huge because it's going to help you basically scale your brand. And of course, you have to have that budget is also good for samples. And samples are huge. And the reason we always stress samples. And it's because people want to try your products. Yeah. They want to try your products. They may not know who the hell you are. So giving them the samples, basically it's like getting your foot, your toes in the door, especially if you know you have a bomb product. So anyway, we're on this screen right here, and this is called Scaling a Brand, and this is retail, how we did it. So I think we've shown this screen before, but you guys weren't able to see it just a few weeks back. And so these are some pictures of an old company that we actually helped. And this was a dispensary that we opened. And I'm telling you guys, like, from everything from start to finish. So we're going to just talk about that experience. Now, as you can see here, like if you look at the middle picture, there's a line of people. That was our opening day. And so we had a line outside the door.
All day there was a line like that.
Yeah.
And what you don't see in the picture to the right of them is booths set up with samples all along that space there. There's booths where they can talk to the vendors and get samples and get educated. And so we had a great turn, and we had tacos.
Yeah. So this is about basically creating a community. And this is what we were talking about before, how retail can help you create a community. Yep. You have the patients in this particular case, they're able to ask questions to the vendors that are off to the side. We're feeding them. We're bringing them into our community. They don't mind. Do they look like they mind waiting in line? No, yep. They're relaxed. You know, we have the store owner out there. He's talking to the patients, basically, you know, again, being transparent. And that's what people want to see. Another thing that you see is our shelving. You see that, you know, we have a few products over there that have really good brands. You want to have a good brand that stands out, that pops on the shelf, because if you don't have a good brand that stands out, that pops on the shelf, then you're going to get overlooked. You can get overlooked even in your own retail space. So you want to have something that stands out, something that actually grabs people's attention, and then that is actually good. That's a quality product that people come back for. When you're working within limited space, like we were working within limited space, it's all about the quality products that you put on the shelf, and you have to be very meticulous about what products that you put on the shelf.
And that's another thing. When you're selling to these retail stores, they're getting hit up 20 to 30 times a day. I'm not even joking, with people that have tinctures, gummies, capsules.
Because we were.
So you gotta, yeah. And I just talked to a CBD store owner today, and he's getting hit up 20 to 30 times a day. Mm-hmm. So
people are bringing you things and everything.
Yeah, so you got to have something unique. Otherwise, it's going to be really tough to get your foot in the door. I'm not saying it's not possible, because I see people doing it with tinctures. I have clients that get accounts all over, and all they have is tinctures.
Yeah, but
it's a lot easier to get your foot in the door if you have a unique product that they don't have in that store yet. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely. It's like you have to think outside of the box, because some things that are easy to create, everyone creates that. And so what makes you stand out, of course, is the quality of your product, the uniqueness of your product, the brand itself, the message behind the brand. All these things add up. And it's funny, because when I was getting into the cannabis space, I was seeing a shift. It shifted from basically people creating their homemade products and being able to get them on dispensary shelves, to having to compete with people who were actually branding. And so, you know, I just saw that trend, and that's where we are now. You know, a lot of people, you know, it's like the homemade things and the things that don't have the
real brand identity.
The dosages on there doesn't tell the patients or the customers about how much to take. Those things are kind of, you know, they're a thing of the past, in that they don't sell as well in a retail space these days, because people, they want more information. They want more information because they're taking this as part of their wellness program.
Yep. And if you have a retail store, if you're one of the people out there that own a retail store, the way we were able to get that line, or one of the reasons why we were able to get that massive line of people, and I think we did like $40,000 in sales that day. We had a street team that was from the music business, and they're music promoters. They promote concerts, and we got the street team out there with our flyers, pounding the pavement. Tons of people came out. So that's how another way to promote your store, depending on what city you live in, and those things.
Right. And and we'll talk about that in the next slide too. Just some of the things that we did to basically build a company from ground zero, and, you know, take such a small space and generate millions of dollars of sales within a small space within a short period of time. It's a huge feat, I'm telling you. Okay, so let's just talk about how we did it. So, you know, you have to study the brand. We talked about this before. You have to know the archetype. And in particular with the retail store, we actually hired a designer.
Yeah. And she, before she's an interior designer, she worked in dispensaries. She managed dispensaries. She has now gone on to win some of the highest awards in interior design for retail, let alone dispensaries. And so you have to hire a specialist like that if you really want to make your store unique, especially if you only have like 300 to 500 square feet. You want to make it the best 500 square feet you possibly can. And so hiring a professional interior designer is a must, in my opinion, and it was worth the investment. And I know that because the owners of that dispensary, they're just a few days ago are able to expand the dispensary that me and Bee used to run. And they hired her back, of course, because she's amazing. And so when you hire a specialist and they deliver, then you're good, and you know you can count on them. And that look and the vibe of the store, why is the Apple store from the moment they open the door it's crowded. There's a line everywhere. So it's because that store is beautiful, you know?
Absolutely. Yes, I want to make sure that you guys can hear us. And I went ahead and I posted in the form. If you can hear us, make sure, press 1 if you can hear us. If you can't, press 2 just to let us know that you're hearing us okay. So another thing that we did is literally hit the pavement. Okay, so that line outside the door, that came from door to door, talking to people, kissing babies, as I like to say, and shaking hands.
Yeah, you just got to get out there and make a list. Like there's a place in San Diego called Garnett Avenue in Pacific Beach, and there's all these shops and places that carry CBD. Me and B would just get out there and hit them. There's like 50 of them, and we ended up getting accounts at a lot of those stores. And and I've driven all over California, Riverside County, San Bernardino, the worst places you can imagine, scary places. It doesn't matter. You just got to hustle and get out there and go door to door, because that old school method works. Like we have a friend that has a kratom company. He travels the whole country once a year. He has 150 accounts, and he'll go to each one of those and say hi to them, or maybe not all of them, but his bigger ones. And then every year they reorder from him. And I think he does hit them all up. So it's a lot of work, but that old school method of just walking in, if you're charming and you have your stuff together and you look right and professional, you have your nice brochures with you and nice samples, and you have a smile on your face, of course they're going to welcome you if they're decent people. So.
Absolutely. And that's an example. Basically, if you're getting your brand into retail stores. Now, when I'm talking about like hitting the pavement here and kissing babies and shaking hands, that's another method that we used when we were opening a retail store ourselves, in that we were passing out the business cards to let people know that we were opening the retail store, so that we could have the line of people that we would have outside the door. Another way that we did to promote the retail store, and we'll go over what we did with distribution shortly, but we promoted it via blogs and social media. So we generated buzz on social media about what we were doing when we were getting ready to open the THCSD.
Yeah, and also we got a lot of press in local newspapers and magazines and things like that, because if you think about it, when you have a retail store, it doesn't matter. You're not trying to market to the world. You want the local people that live within about 20 minutes of there knowing about you. So there's a lot of small local newspapers and publications like that you can reach out to and easily get press. And one of our clients, we helped him open a CBD store last year. He was all over the press in Monterey, California, and he ended up doing $600,000 in his first year in sales.
Yeah, there are people who still read the paper, and again, It's about your target audience and knowing your target audience and knowing what they read, where they get their information from is huge. So you really have to study them.
Yep, and all those papers, of course, are online as well, so it helps with your SEO and just getting your name out there online.
So how did we take a store from 0 to over 6 million in a year's time frame? Well, there's no I in team, so you have to have an A+ team to begin with if you're going to open your own retail store. This is huge. You can only hire or work with capable people that you can train, people that you can educate, people that are willing to learn, people that are there to actually help people. That's huge. People who are reliable and that you can depend on, who are trustworthy. That's very huge when it comes to opening a retail store.
Yeah, and we've found that if you can find people from other industries that have been trained, like maybe Starbucks people, sometimes they're really good employees because they've been trained in customer service. And so it's all about the customer service. And of course, they have to have knowledge of cannabis and CBD products.
Absolutely. So again, you have to have superior products, only offer the best to begin with. If you offer crap, then you're going to be known that you offer crap, and that message will spread with your customers, and you don't want that. You want to have all high quality products, only offer the best products, period. There's really no reason to offer crappy products, because again, like I said, I look at things like, would you want your mother to take it, your father to take it, yourself to take it? Would you want to take something that's not a quality product? No. So why sell a product that isn't superior quality? Yeah. And again, how did we do it? Okay, so, you can't just make, a few $1 million in a small space without having excellent customer service. So you really do have to take time with your customers to get to know them. And it's funny because in the dispensary space, like I was saying, we had so many different regulations that we had to be compliant with, as far as having only so many people at the store at once because of regulations. But nevertheless, we were still able to generate over 6 million in that 330 square foot space, with only being able to allow, I think, maybe no more than 2 people at once in the store. And let me tell you, you have to have really good customer service to see those types of numbers.
Or maybe it was 4 people, but still, yeah, maybe 4.
And
but
you
still.
have to have a system in place. So you want to make sure that you're taking the time to talk to your customers and get to know them, especially if you're going to have a retail store.
And they become like family. A lot of them, they come in every day. You'll have customers that come in every day, especially if you have like smokable pre-rolls or something. They'll come in and buy like 3 or 5 of those every day.
Absolutely.
That's your bread and butter. That pays your rent.
Absolutely. And you want to hear from your patients every day, or your customers every day. Like, we would have people that would be lined up before we even opened up the store.
Yeah, like 10 people sometimes in the morning. And so you can do things like we used to do. We would give away a free pre-roll in the morning, and they would be lined up, and they would buy more than they wouldn't just get a free pre-roll. They have to buy something, of course. And,
who doesn't want a free pre-roll in the morning with some coffee?
Yeah, so that's a good way of getting people in, get the cash registers ringing in the morning.
And it's a good way of making their day, too, because they feel really good about coming to see you in the morning time. They're happy to see you, honey. Believe me.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have to have a budget to be able to plan this. Like, if you were going to go off and create your own retail store in this example, and we'll go over distribution momentarily, you want to have a budget to plan. It helps to have a budget that matches what your goals are in the first place, because sometimes what we find when you create a retail store, in our experience, you have to put in more before you get more out.
Oh, yeah. It's usually double what you think it is, and it's going to take twice as long to get open. And yeah, that's almost every time. There's just always something that happens.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I've seen it across the board with every project that I've seen.
It usually takes longer than what you think and more money than what you plan for. And so that's why you want to have a budget to begin with, right?
Yeah, and then you don't want to go back to your investor more than once if you're not using your own money. So you got to make sure you ask for enough. And I was just talking to a company earlier that we're helping launch, and they have people left and right trying to invest in them. So it's not hard to find cash if you have a good business plan. The challenging part is picking the right investor that you connect with and that you're not going to have issues with. And the ideal thing is to have an investor that will stay on the sidelines and be a silent investor and let you do your thing. And so just think about all those things as you think about putting together a retail store.
Yeah, you don't want a crazy ass investor. And again, organization is key, guys. Like, how do you generate big sales? You have to be organized. You have to be organized from the top to the bottom. You have to create systems, and that's actually my
standard operating procedures.
Yeah, SOPs and stuff like that. That's the type of stuff that makes me really excited, because it's like creating a framework that people can follow. And I think if you have a framework, then it helps to generate the sales because you have a system in place. You can't just do it all willy-nilly, you guys. You might be able to be a little successful, but you may not generate the millions of dollars that you may want to generate. So organization is the key. And I think that's probably like my favorite part about opening a retail store, is getting everything, all the pieces together. Okay, so distribution. Now, these pictures, these are old Hemplogica days and all of that. So how did we get into those stores, and what did we do? And we talked a little bit about that earlier. But basically, we did trade shows. Like, that was one of the methods that we used to get into the stores. Trade shows are huge, especially trade shows that are business-to-business trade shows, because they can be gold mines.
Yep, and you got to pick the right kind of trade shows. Like, we made the mistake one time. We did a stoner event, and it was a nightmare.
I had a good time, you guys.
Yeah, it was fun, but you know, everybody at the cannabis events, they want to get high. They were buying it for their grandmother, like from us. So we were, it was funny. Like,
it was really cool though, because, you know, you got to, again, test the market and see what's out there and see what people like. And a lot of time, people are so caring, you know, the stoners were actually interested in buying the CBD for their parents and their grandparents.
But, you know, we didn't make as many sales as when we did events like the World Anti-Aging or the Anti-Aging World Conference and the Tobacco Plus Expo and things like that. But now the Tobacco Plus Expo, I heard just this year, is like all CBD. When we did it 2 years ago, there was like 5 other CBD booths.
Yeah, we were kind of like the brand new on the scene with the gangster lean.
So you got to find those trade shows where maybe there's only a few other CBD companies. So where everybody zigs, you zag. And there's so many audiences that are interested in CBD. Like it's incredible the amount of trade shows that you could do.
Yeah, and I like trade shows where you can get, you know, you can sell and you can have those direct sales. Now, mind you, not all trade shows are like that. And so some trade shows, you know, they're beneficial because they connect you with people that you can follow up with after the trade show. We always talk about how the follow-up is really huge.
Yeah, you got to have that follow-up system. You're not going to get many sales at the trade show, although we used to get a lot. But most people don't close that many deals at the trade show. It's all about following up and then getting them afterward and building that relationship.
Yeah, and I love trade shows. I mean, because they're just like, I mean, there's instant results depending on, you know, how good you are at selling and if you're at the right show. Okay, so distribution, how do we do it? Target the right retail for CBD. Like first of all, we went through health stores. Remember how we were pounding the pavement and we went to, remember the places that were doing the B12 shots
like
and
vitamin
all of that?
shots. There's any kind of place, or even right now, the float tank places where you can float and meditate.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, before they go in the float tank, they're selling the CBD experience. So there's all kinds of salons, even I'm hearing where the women are getting their hair done, they're giving them CBD before they get their hair done.
CBD massages, stuff like that. You know, that's huge, you guys. So again, it's about being really creative. So how do we get into these stores? Well, first of all, we had to target the right retail for our brand. And then we became our own brand ambassador. Like basically, when you have a product that you believe in, you become your own brand ambassador. You literally show up, like we said earlier, give samples, answer questions, give support to the store owners. These are all things that are very important as it relates to basically getting in those stores. You have to become your own brand ambassador. And we talked earlier about using consignment. This can help you get in the door because, you know, sometimes people are like, well, I don't know you. And you're like, okay, well, here's my product. You know, why don't you want to talk a little bit about consignment, babe?
Well, yeah, like we've been saying, it's just a great way to get a sale with a company. They might say, well, yeah, like we just said, I don't know your products. Even if they try to sample, we don't know if it's going to sell. All right, well, here's some product. Let's see if it sells, you know, and then if it doesn't sell, sometimes they want to give it back to you. But so that's the agreements that you have to work out with the company. Like, is this consignment where they just, that's theirs now and they owe you the money for that? Or if it doesn't sell, do they get to give it back to you? So make sure you agree and get it in writing and make an agreement, a consignment agreement with the company that you choose to do that with.
Yeah, we were lucky because we didn't have any issues. The products just sold. You know what I mean? You put them on consignment and then they sell. So you go pick up your money.
The only issue was a couple times they didn't want to pay us after they sold the products, and I had to call and get a little angry with them. And, you know,
well, you go pick up your money. So yeah, another thing that helps with what helped us distribute and helped us get in those stores is having a cause. Like, again, you hear us talking about this all the time, but this sets you apart. Like, okay, it could basically come down to, what if you have two products or two companies that both of them sell tinctures and both of them use, a broad spectrum or whatever, and both of them are superior and all of this, but then one of them gives back to children and then one of them doesn't. Okay, well, the customers that have a heart towards children are going to be more inclined to buy the product, probably where they feel they can help children, because customers want to feel like they're a part of making a change, of helping.
Exactly.
So it's very important. It can help you stand out. And of course, it's just a very nice thing to do, to be able to give back. And that's why we love giving back with everything that we do. Distribution. How do we get into those stores? We made it personal. We literally became friends with like the store owners. Like one of our store owners, I remember that we used to talk to, he had a baby, you know, we were following up with him. We knew about some of the personal things going on in their lives, because it really does make you, it makes you more human. It makes them more inclined to want to get more products from you. It makes them want to work with you more.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, just making those bonds and connections with people.
And it's genuine too.
Yeah, so then you get more orders that way.
Yeah,
for sure.
You get more orders and you get your money when it's time to pick your money up. Okay, so let's go over the CBD sales process explained, and I'm just going to click this for Matt because.
So yeah, if you follow the process step by step, you'll succeed. And this is kind of going over in the course, and this is the simplified version, but I'm super passionate about this because it really does work, and you just have to do it the right way, which we described in the course. And so decide on the types of retail locations that you want to sell to, whether it's smoke shops, health food stores, natural food markets. There's so many. You can get creative. There's places that I'm not even thinking about that you can sell CBD out of. It's crazy. And, you know, get a verified list of these retail locations and make sure you get it from a legitimate company. There's a lot of fly-by-night email companies out there. Or you can hire appointment setting service that will have lists already of these kind of stores, and they'll go after and set the appointments for you. It just depends on the budget and your plan, because if you buy the list, you could always do it yourself to start. And lead generation is the key. You got to have leads. The more leads you have, the more accounts you're going to get. It's that simple.
Yeah,
and
seriously.
It's just, and I always like to say, get to the no. Like, I want them to tell me no, because then that's when the dance begins. Like, then I can start asking them why. I don't just go, oh, okay, and thanks, bye. You know, like, when they say no, that's the beginning. So you want to get him to say no, or right away, or fast. Like,
yeah,
let's get to the dance.
Yeah, let's get to it, baby. Because sometimes people say no. I've had people say no at trade shows and turn around and they have just bought a bunch of products and they were planning on putting those products in their stores, but you have a phenomenal sales pitch and you say, well, do those products give back to children? Does that company give back to children with epilepsy? Is that broad spectrum? Is it 0 THC? Is it yada, yada, yada? And the people say no. And then they end up buying from you.
Or even at a trade show before, the lady didn't want to buy from me, but B jumped in and she got her to buy. Like, it just, sometimes they don't like you. And they like the other
it's personality thing. You know what I mean? But it's like, no doesn't mean absolutely not. It just means maybe they need more information.
Yeah. So it's all about leads and just pounding the pavement. And you got to have, ideally, you want separate people. So you want your appointment setters, you want your closers, and you want your account managers. And that's all they do. The problem that most companies make is they make somebody do all three of those jobs, and it doesn't work as well. Trust me, if you can get 3 different people doing those things, and the appointment setting companies you can get in the Philippines, very affordable. Closers, you should get somebody that really knows CBD, somebody that's, you know, fluent in CBD and can really speak on your brand and on their feet and know sales. And the account manager, same thing. They have to know your brand and be very kind-hearted and love people.
Yeah, and these are people that you probably obviously have to train to get them situated, but it could be worth it because it can save you time and money.
Yep, and if you're bootstrapping it in the beginning, like we were doing it all ourselves, so we broke it up between us two at least.
Yeah.
And here's what the appointment setter, do you want to hire internally or outsource? Like we were just saying, there are a lot of companies out there that you can outsource that portion of this too.
Yeah.
You got to get the targeted quality leads that will respond to your brand. Like, don't just try to be a generic brand. Like, do something that's going to fit with your targeted audience. Like, if you're going to create a medical brand, make it look medical, and then target the chiropractors and the naturopathic doctors and things like that.
Yeah, you guys want to really think outside the box and be smart.
Yep, and you have to have the valid information, of course, and so make sure that these are verified leads.
Mm-hmm.
And this person, the lead generation, is focused on obtaining leads and appointment setting. That's it. So either you hire somebody or you outsource that, like I said. And yeah, you can buy the list so that you can focus on appointment setting. And later on, that was in the course probably. So there. And so check the course. And so closers. This is what I am. I like to think I am, at least. Why it's best to have a dedicated closer is because closers love to close. So why would you have a closer doing lead generation? They don't like doing that most of the time. They want to close.
Closers come in and do the dirty job.
Get them in there. Get them on the phones. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a very important position to have.
Yeah, and they're usually terrible at account management. Once they get the close, they're on to the next one.
Yeah, they're not about organizing things.
No.
They're just basically there to seal it up, make the deal happen.
Yeah, and then the account manager is the organized one. And
Right.
that's what me and B did. I was the closer, she was the account manager.
Right. And you have to have a really good system for that, which we talk about CRM systems in the course.
Yeah. And like I said, must be knowledgeable about CBD. Don't hire somebody if they don't know about how to speak about CBD, because they will get tested out there, especially if you're hiring if you're selling a medical brand. Oh my God, these doctors, they think they know everything.
Well,
and
yeah.
so you got to show them what you know.
And sometimes, I notice with like the doctors, like they don't know, but they're expecting you to know.
Yeah.
They're asking a lot of
exactly.
questions. And so
That's a good
therefore
point.
you have to know.
Yep. And so you want to have the closer to have 5 to 8 appointments set for them every day if possible. And that closer, they should close about 2 or 3 of those every day. Imagine if you were getting 2 to 3 new accounts every day, or at least 5 days a week.
Imagine if you had someone else doing this and you weren't doing this. Oh my gosh, you could be focused on your business and then generating more sales.
Yep. And yeah, instead of working in your business, you're working on it, or however that is.
Yeah. We're still trying to figure that out.
I don't know how to
We're
do it.
in it and on it.
And so, yeah, pay salary plus commission if possible, because that way you're going to get better salespeople that way. They're out there working hard, pounding the pavement. You want to make sure you pay them well.
Yeah, you treat people right.
Yep. And so do it yourself in the beginning if you're bootstrapping it, and that way you could train the people. So it's good to get your feet wet, learn it, roll your sleeves up, and learn how to do it yourself first.
Absolutely.
And that way you're going to be a much better manager.
I agree.
So the account manager is best to have a dedicated one. And obviously in the beginning, you could start somebody part-time. You could do it in the beginning. And then once you get like 5, 10 accounts, maybe 15, then you hire somebody part-time, and then you'll know when you need to hire them full-time. And obviously, like I said, they have to have knowledge and great personality, dedicated to following up, keeping those customers happy, especially your big dog customer.
Oh my gosh, when you finally do get an account where someone is taking your products, it is a huge blessing, you guys, for someone to take your products, and you really feel so good that people trusted you enough to take your products. You don't want to disappoint them by not having products. You don't want to run out of products with the retail stores that you're supplying. Make sure that you have enough products that you can actually supply these retail chains.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you have an account manager, it's going to help with that lifetime value, because they're taking care of that store owner. They're going to buy from you a lot longer than if you just close them and then expect them to call you to order. It doesn't work like that. And so it might in some instances, but most of the time you got to follow up, make sure they're happy, make sure you're getting them samples, things like that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me when you were talking about the account managers, what we've seen with previous business partners. Remember, one of our friends had the call team, and he had all those people there, and they were managing those accounts for the various smoke shops, and they constantly checked on those smoke shops. You have certain people managing accounts who can take care of these stores to make sure they're not overlooked and to make sure that they have everything that they need at any given time.
Exactly.
And that's huge. So you guys, do you have any questions? Let's look and see if we have any questions.
Anybody out there wants to ask anything? So yeah, we've been at this for quite some time, sold millions of dollars of products to
Oh my
retail
gosh,
and in
yeah.
retail stores. And so that's one thing we've done a lot of. And so, yeah, we would love to be able to answer your questions. If you don't want to ask them now, you can shoot us an email if you're thinking of something later on, or hit me up through Facebook, no problem.
Yeah, you guys, retail is fun. It's very challenging, but again, it takes your business to the next level because it puts you out there. It takes you from being behind the scenes. And like Matt was saying, you know, we're still on we're in the beginning stages of e-commerce. Like people are still going out to the brick and mortars, you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a cool experience. Like, I don't know if you guys have been in dispensaries before, but it's like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, it is.
People love that experience.
I do too. Like, even though in California, you know, you get spoiled because you get deliveries and stuff, you can get your stuff delivered to you, but there's nothing like going out to a new dispensary that's new in the market and you haven't seen it before and they have a grand opening or something like that, and you food and fun and an opportunity to try new products, because oftentimes that's where you get to sample new things, especially like grand opening. There's giveaways. It's a party. It's exciting.
Yep.
It generates buzz and you feel like you're really a part of the community. And that's why I really like having a retail store. So maybe one of these days we'll get another retail store or something like that under our belts.
Yeah. And I talked to a couple the other day. They started their brand, and they have like a natural brand with toothpaste and deodorants, and they just launched their CBD line about 8 months ago. They started their company with $1,000. Last year they did $10 million.
Wow.
They just got into Walmart.
Wow.
And it was just a husband and wife that started their company. They just really created some great products and rolled their sleeves up and got out there and really did it. And so you can do that too. And it's just about having the vision and the plan and executing it. And that's what we're here to help you guys with. So feel free anytime to reach out to us, and we're here for you.
Well said. I have nothing else to add.
Cool. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a happy Monday, you guys.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.